Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, let's discuss about data buffer cache and also reader log buffer. These are the cache memories in SGA region of instance, and are processors like a database writer and also log writer. Here, database writer is helpful for the data buffer cache in order to read and write the data blocks from database files. Log writer is a process that helps the reader log buffer to write the reader entries to the reader log files. These reader log files, database files, and control files are stored in a physical device called disk, whereas instance is just generated in the RAM. Let's start with an example. Here we required a table, and in last video I have created a table which is named employee. In that employee we have created columns like employee salary, employee ID, employee name, and the department of employee. In that I'm going to write an SQL query to update the salary of an employee whose employee ID is 1. So here is the SQL statement for the updating salary. Once I query, now we will discuss whenever we query this update statement, what will happen from user to, and that is from session establishment to how a data is updated in the data files. First of all, whenever we query this statement, a user process is generated. It contains the user details and also the SQL statement that we have queried, and this SQL statement and user details are transferred to the listener. Listener is just a mediator which can transfer the details of user from user process to the server process. Server process will verify each and every user details and also the SQL statement. It just verifies the user details and transfer the SQL statement to the instance region, in instance to the SGA region. SGA region shared pool is the main important cache memory which will execute the entire SQL statement. I have covered everything related to the SGA in the second or third video of Oracle server, and about the session establishment, that is a user is connecting to the database which involves the user process, listener, and server process. If you haven't watched that videos, please go and watch them. Once the SQL statement is stored in the shared pool contains again two caches. One is library cache and data dictionary cache. These two are responsible for executing the SQL statement. This library cache will do SQL parsing. SQL parsing is nothing but checking for syntax and schematic error of the SQL statement and creating an execution plan for that SQL statement. If SQL statement is executed and also the parsing is done for first time, then it is called hard parsing. And if the same statement I have queried for second time or more than one time, then the parsing is called soft parsing. Now from the discussion we have a little bit knowledge about shared pool, and we have a doubt here from where the shared pool is getting data, and we can say data buffer cache will help the shared pool in order to give its required data. Actually, a data buffer cache is also a cache memory in SGA. This cache memory will store the data blocks that are directly read from the database files. It not only stores the data blocks of database files, it also stores undo files. Undo files in the sense, for example, we have updated the salary of employee whose employee ID is 1. The before updating a salary is stored in a form of undo block. This data buffer cache not only stores the data blocks that are brought from the database files, it also stores the undo blocks. These undo blocks are formed from the update statement. That is, when update statement is queried to an database, this update statement will forms will makes the undo blocks. For example, if I wants to update the employee salary whose employee ID is 1, the before updated value of employee ID 1 is stored in the form of undo blocks in data buffer cache. Now we have got an idea about what are undo blocks that are stored in the data buffer cache. And while learning the SQL language, we have come across some transactional statements like commit and rollback. These statements will help the data buffer cache in order to write. These undo blocks are formed from the update statement. That is, when update statement is queried to an database, these update statements will makes the undo blocks. For example, if I wants to update the employee salary whose employee ID is 1, the before updated value of employee ID 1 is stored in the form of undo blocks in data buffer cache. Now we have got an idea about what are undo blocks that are stored in the data buffer cache. And while learning the SQL language, we have come across some transactional statements like commit and rollback. These statements will help the data buffer cache in order to write the undo or redo blocks through the data buffer writer. While learning the SQL language, we came across a transactional statements called rollback and also commit. These statements will help the data buffer cache and also redo log buffer in order to write the data to the database files or redo log files. So let's know what are these transactional statements, rollback and commit. If you want to give a record, commit is nothing but like a save. If you have updated any value in the table you have created, so that after updating it we will commit it. Commit is nothing but we will save the change. If there is no commit statement, then we can roll back the updated value to the old values. So rollback is possible only when there is no commit. In the same way, if you haven't hit the commit statement, if you want to write the undo blocks, that is, if you want to update the blocks in the database files with the undo blocks, then database writer will help the data buffer cache to write the undo blocks. Actually, database writer is a software which helps the data buffer cache to write undo blocks to the database files. So now we'll have a doubt like when this database writer process will write undo blocks to the database files. When the external checkpoint is enabled, at the time it writes the undo blocks to the database files, and also at the time when server process needs clear data buffer cache, then it also writes undo blocks. Whenever these 30 blocks are also called as undo blocks, reaches the certain limit in the data buffer cache, then also this background process database writer will write the blocks to the database files. This is all about database writer. It is a process which helps the data buffer cache in order to read and write data blocks from and into database files. And now let's discuss what are redo log buffer and redo log files, and also the process log writer, how it helps the files. Actually, redo log buffer is also a cache memory that is present in SGA of instance, whereas redo log files are present on the physical disk, that is database. I have said about an example, that is an SQL statement with update. If we want to update a salary of a person whose employee ID is 1, then that before and after values are classified into blocks. I said before updated value is called undo block and after updated value is a redo value. These redo entries are stored in redo log buffer. This buffer is in SGA region of instance. This redo log buffer cache memory maintains records. For example, if I have updated a value, then it stores each and every detail of that particular update. For example, by whom the update is made, where it is made, and at what time it is made. So entire information related to that update is stored in the form of record. Buffer stores the updated values in the form of records. So these records need to be saved so that if there is any instance crashed, then we can recover the instance from where it has crashed. So for that we use redo log files in the database. So in order to write the records from redo log buffer to the redo log files in the database, we required a process called the log writer. And this is how log writer will help the in recovering the instance whenever a sudden crash happened. Now the same question is, how frequently this log writer will write the records from redo log buffer to the redo log files. This log writer will write the contents, that is records of redo log buffer to the redo log files whenever buffer cache is full by 1/3, and it writes for every 3 seconds. This is all about redo log files and also redo log files and also redo log buffer. So we will know more about database files, control files, and also redo log files, archived files, and archiver process in next video.